Paul's pragmatics.
Sorry.
I had an interesting experience one day when I was conducting a Measure of a Man seminar in Chicago. Two men sitting near the front row were obviously interested in what I was sharing about this list of 20 qualities. They actually began giving me positive feedback, not only with body language, but also with words such as, "That's right, Gene. That's true. That's a good point. Who's this Titus guy?" Encouraged by these two men's responses, I went over and sat at their table during the next coffee break, hoping to get better acquainted. I discovered they were both in upper management in a large steel mill in Gary, Indiana. Furthermore, they were both brand new Christians. One of the men said, "Gene, this is outstanding material. We've heard it before, but not from the Bible." The other agreed and then added, "Yeah, I've heard of Timothy before, but this Titus guy, I've never heard of him." This is the kind of men we're looking for. I then knew I was relating to two men who were not only new Christians, but who also knew little about the Bible. But I soon discovered these men were not new to the field of management. At that point, they made an observation I'll never forget. They say, "This is the first time we've heard this list of qualifications from the Bible," but they continued, "We've learned that from experience in hiring people for middle management positions that this is the kind of men we're looking for. We want men who have good reputation. We don't want a man who's cheating on his wife or sleeping around because chances are he'll cheat the company. We certainly don't want a man who has all kinds of domestic problems. If he can't handle his own family, how in the world is he going to handle people in our steel mill?" Characteristic by characteristic, these men outlined what they learned from experience and had arrived at the same basic list of qualifications that closely paralleled Paul's list. All truth is God's truth. How fascinating, I thought. We had been looking at a list inspired by the Holy Spirit and outlined by Paul nearly 2,000 years ago. And here were two men who were new Christians and knew little about the Bible, but had learned by experience that this biblical profile is pragmatic and essential in selecting people who will be serving in responsible positions. This certainly verifies the statement popularized by Frank Gablin when he concluded that all truth is God's truth. In other words, if it is true wherever you discover it, whether in the Bible or through personal experience. These two men were simply affirming that these qualities outlined by Paul were indeed a mature profile. But I'm not a leader. When you first look at the list of spiritual qualifications in Paul's two letters, you might conclude that Paul was exclusively outlining qualifications for men who serve in pastoral and teaching positions in the church. Paul was outlining a criteria for selecting men to occupy these ministry positions. But in essence, he was saying, "Timothy, if a man wants to become a spiritual leader, that's great. Just make sure he's a mature man. And here's how you determine if he measures up to God's standards as a Christian." In other words, some men will possess these qualities and qualify to serve as spiritual leaders. Other men will possess these qualities, but will not necessarily feel called to serve in this kind of spiritual capacity. The qualities, however, are goals for every Christian man. Paul simply pulled together several qualities he and other authors mentioned elsewhere in the New Testament, and then compiled a marvelous profile for measuring our maturity levels in Christ.
Thinking and growing together. The following questions are designed for group discussions after reading and studying the content of this chapter.
I love group discussion.
Why do some men grow rapidly in their Christian faith once they become believers? And why do others struggle, seemingly taking as many steps backward as forward? Note, when you're finding the answers to this question, try to add to the reasons already outlined in this chapter. Think of examples you can sensitively share. If you feel free, share your own personal experiences. Okay, so I believe some men grow rapidly because their experiences, along with their teachings, allowed them to have a really good foundation as a child, as a young kid. Or sometimes they're just open to learning real quick. I somewhat struggled with this because, like earlier in the chapter, I was actually one to believe that you can actually get to heaven through good works. That you had to, maintain yourself a certain standard in a certain way to please God. And then I realized, like, there was just no way I can do that. Like, I would still fall short because I'm human. I would always sin. And so it was a really high standard that I tried to maintain, and I could never get it. And then my wife taught me that it's because of God's grace that we're forgiven. It doesn't matter whether it's something that we haven't done, but we're going to do, and it's a sin, and He's already forgiven it. And that's how we are allowed to go into heaven, because He already took all that. He already... What does that say? Why am I putting Jesus back on the cross again?
Oh, when you say, like, I'm not good enough, I've done such wrong, I feel so guilty, just that guilty feeling is like you want Jesus to go back to the cross again so you cannot feel that guilty feeling. He tells you, you're forgiven. I've shed my blood for you already. You're fine. You're good. Like, you accepted me, I accept you just as you are, baby. Like, that's all. That's all the main part about loving each other is that He wants to show us to show each other, and that's all. And to answer the question, why do people take one step forward and two steps back? Because personally for me, I know that if I don't pray to God, ask Him for His will to be done, ask for His help and His power, I don't do anything, and I go backwards so far. But when I pray and I ask God, Lord, get me there, oh, I get further. I get further all the time.
I think actually, I have the same problem too, because sometimes, just like I think like everybody does, we tend to get comfortable. We go to church so we feel comfortable, we feel safe. We forget, like, you know what? We're here because of God. We're breathing. We have everything that we have, our home over our heads, clothes on our back, food on our table, because of God. And, I get complacent. I forget that I'm supposed to thank Him for everything. And, He's already given it to me because He takes care of us. That's our dad in heaven. That's our Father. And, there's things that we read in the book where it says, take the lilies in the field. They don't either sow nor sow. And look how He takes care of them. And if we, that, we're His kids, how is He not going to take care of us? So remember to thank Him. So we take two steps back whenever we get complacent. We don't remember that, this is God who's giving it to you, not us. The job that you have, the car that you have, which, by the way, that's, you don't really have to, because back in the day, like, Christ and His disciples, they didn't have a Volkswagen, they didn't have a Beamer, they didn't have a Mercedes-Benz or a Cadillac. They walked to reach others, to help others. 50 miles all the way around and back and forth for 3 years. No Mercedes, no nothing, no horses, walking with no money, no food, and just the clothes on their back. And look how far they touched so many people. Just 50 miles all the way around. Look what they did. 12 disciples following Jesus all the way around. And so, don't forget, like, they even had it harder before, and they still did it. Why are we complaining so much when we have so many comforts? We have air conditioning, we have water, a refrigerator that keeps that water cold. We have a bed that's actually like any size that you want. We play games to what but they didn't have any of that. Like, they probably had, like, if they were lucky, like, they had a stove to cook their food. And so, remember, like, you guys, this is all this is God's. He's given it to you because He wants you to feel comfortable. He wants you to realize how much love He has for you. So remember to pray for Him. So a lot of times, like, we don't grow because we get complacent. We forget, what we really have.
Okay, the second question is, thinking about the list from Paul's list of things. I know from Paul's list, what I can remember that I'm working on for myself is being quick-tempered, not to be too drunken with wine, to, keep my focus on God all the time, because He deserves that. He did die for us and paid a lot of, not money, but a big price. He put a value on all of us that He paid for. Another one I can remember from Paul's list is to be a person of one spouse. Which we can check that off.
Yes. We do love each other, guys.
Yes.
I think I have that with quick temper too. I can honestly say that I do, and I think everybody does, guys. Which is why we're doing this Bible study, because we want to not focus just because we're sinful, that we're bad people. We just make wrong choices. And that's really what actually my wife has taught me. Like, just because I've made the wrong choices doesn't mean I'm a bad person. And she always has believed in me. And that's something that I really love about her. So she can actually check off the list that she's actually very kind. And she's always been kind to me. And even when I was at my worst, she still believed in me, guys. And that's what allowed me to stop being so quick-tempered in that sense, as far as being able to talk to her gentle and kind. She taught me that, guys. And that's what I was talking to you ladies. Like, ladies, just because a man is acting out or not realizing that he's doing something wrong, and he doesn't realize it because he's human, and it could be Satan tempting him to try to break that relationship, teach him in a loving way. And it does work, guys. It really does. My wife put up a lot through hell with me, and she put up with it because she loved me. Loving me, kind, she forgave me. And then it stopped. And God won and Satan lost. Because Satan right now is like, I try to break you guys up, why don't you guys break up? But she really, truly loves me, dude. And it's the most, like, I can actually, when she tells me she loves me, I can feel God's love through her.
And love Jesus.
Yeah. And so, that quick-temperedness, I remember one of the other things that Paul wrote in the list that I know I have to work on is, I don't believe I'm very hospitable as much. I want to be more hospitable, because I can be selfish sometimes. And I sometimes feel like, I feel like I do it just because it's the right thing, but it might be for selfish reasons, and that's really what I'm trying to work on. Trying to see what I can definitely be abusive in a sense of mentally and spiritually, and again is satanic attacks through me to her to break her apart, because she was actually, and I always tell her she was the most closer to God, so that's why they were trying to break her down, but she was really strong, that God helped her through it. And so
What's another one? What was the one you just said?
I said hospitable, and then I said pugnacious, because it's abusive.
Oh, not an abusive person.
But
okay. And I know, just when we get angry, like the he said, she said, or he did that first, and then it wants to make you act out or be vengeful, or because you're hurt. You want that pain to go away, but no matter what hurt in the moment that I feel like I can do to anybody, I remind myself of that love that God gives us, because I love Jesus, and I love him because Jesus made him. And if somebody's messing with your toy and breaks your toy, you're going to be pissed off. If I break what Jesus made, he's going to be mad at me, and I'm not trying to get in trouble.
Mm-hmm. That's true, guys. That's true what you said. Alright, we're going to go into the second question. As you look at Paul's maturity profile on page 30, what would you consider to be your areas of strength? I think I pointed one out for you, which was the loving and kind. Is there anything that you can think of as well that you're also strong in?
Well, my strengths, to be of good reputation, you can ask anybody. I have a temper, but I have a good heart. And they'll say the same thing about Jose. And I didn't always have a good reputation, and neither did my husband.
But I think honestly that's what God's glory is, because He brought us from a really bad lifestyle. And just like any teenager, just like any kid, just like any, young person, they're going to have, they're going to want to live life wild and free. And sometimes that actually gets you into trouble and gets you into the wrong, way of thinking and way of lifestyle. And we have that to tell you guys that, we did have that kind of lifestyle. It's not like we were always so good, like we were living in this, Christian background. Our moms and dads were always. It's not true. But it's because of that reason that we were living that life that drew us more to God. And that's what, has kept us together as well, as just that love for God.
And without that darkness, you wouldn't be able to see the stars shine, their light.
That's true.
And even as we get older, we still want to be young, we still want to do things, but this whole thing between being young and old, there's eternity in heaven, and there's no young and old.
That's true.
So we shouldn't even be worried about that. We should always have fun.
Yes.
Play video games.
Like, honestly, like, I see my wife, she has this childlike innocence. And I love that about her, because it's innocent love. It's not that sexual type, like, just, one night stand kind of thing. It's more of like, you really, really, really love me.
And the third question is,
as you look at the same profile, in one specific area would you like to grow the most? Can you identify the factor or factors that are holding you back?
Okay, so we already went over the first one a little bit. But something holding us back is just ourselves. I mean, we get angry, we get frustrated. Sometimes we get too busy, and that shouldn't be the case. So it says set a goal. Write out a goal you'd like to achieve as a result of this study. My goal for this week is to be patient and not vengeful / mentally or physically abusive.
The last time you told me that I was patient, so I would have been something that I wanted to say, that I wanted to be more patient, but since you said that, I'm going to choose something else.
Okay.
So I think what my goal this week is to maintain a way of talking to you without sounding rude. I think I've done it for a week now, where I haven't been, I'm still having a little bit of struggles and problems with it today. I think I realized, what I was doing wrong. And so even though I am talking to you in a nice, kind of way, I still can sound rude. So it's going to defeat the purpose of talking to you in that sense. So my goal this week is to find a way to talk to you in a rude manner. That's what I want to do. Alright guys, so this is all we have for this week.
That's it. That's still going.